Did you know that male brand mascots outnumber female ones 2 to 1? The Starbucks Merman, for example, has one of the most ubiquitous faces in marketing. But for this International Women's Day, try to picture a world where that face was actually female. Imagine a strong, independent woman on every street corner. Now that's progress.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown Fortitude Valley, it's the Harry Gold Show, with your host, Harry Gold.
Good evening, ladies, and gentlemen too, I guess, and welcome to the program. Studies on gender in media show that if you round up, 100% of brand logos are male, and there's no such thing as a female mascot. And that's just not good enough. It's 2022, for God's sake. In order to get into the spirit of International Women's Day, this show is doing what everyone does this time of year. Call for somebody else to instigate real change, while we ourselves settle for a self-aggrandizing, symbolic gesture. We're going to give all those patriarchal dinosaurs in the world of brand mascots a makeover. Oh, but I don't mean makeover like teenage girls at a sleepover doing makeup type makeover, because that would be stereotyping. Broad, backwards generalizations like that are hurtful to people who are bad at makeup and have no friends. We're not just gonna widen a heel by 2 microbes and then gloat to the press like it's the second coming of Rosa Parks either. We're gonna make some real changes around here. Can you believe they'd call the brand Wendy's but make the logo a boy? The lengths these men will go to exclude women is dumbfounding and unbelievably insulting, unless it's challenging gender stereotypes in naming, in which case it's unbelievably progressive. I'll get back to you on which. Either way, this is our vision of a better world where women are well represented in important cultural spheres like corporate branding. Hang on, could putting a girl on food packaging be taken as a reinforcement of outdated and offensive notions about a woman's place being in the kitchen? Am I being a bad ally right now? I really should have consulted with Anita Sarkeesian before making this video. Naturally, everyone is familiar with Hello Kitty, mascot for Sanrio, the Japanese company that somehow played the consumer so hard they became famous purely for advertising their own brand on their own merch. Erasers, pencil cases, you name it. If it's a surface that ink can adhere to, you can bet Sanrio has plastered this cat on it. But what if the mascot that has been possessed in at least one medium by every girl born in the last 30 years was actually a girl herself? Now that really would be a future worth fighting for. Now, I'll admit I'm not actually the first noted respecter of women to try and make a difference using logos on International Women's Day. Come the 8th of every March, all the biggest companies come slithering out of the woodwork, desperately stampeding over one another to prove just how devotedly pro-X chromosome they are. Preferably without having to actually do anything meaningful that can't be removed from the company profile pic by the time the clock hits midnight. McDonald's is only worth, what, a couple of $100 billion? So what miracle of feminine liberation did they come up with? I'll bet the marketing team was up all night racking their brains for that puppy. Not to be outdone, MTV even altered their logo slightly more than just having it turn upside down. And then Nintendo went and created an entire International Women's Day character. I hear she's into body positivity. KFC got in on the act by replacing the woefully male Colonel Sanders with his wife Claudia. His second wife, that is, with whom he cheated on his first. There's some solidarity right there. Johnny Walker's also pulled the same sort of stunt, releasing a Jane Walker edition. Women can get blitzed too, you know. The Barbie doll was invented by Ruth Handler in 1959 and named, as you may well know, for her hairy adult son who liked playing with dolls, Barbados Handler. Their open-mindedness about gender roles was amazingly ahead of its time. At least, I think it was. I'll have to check what the majority of Twitter comments are telling me to think before I tell you what I think. Regardless, anyone who has ever wondered, what if Barbie were a girl, need wonder no longer. You are perhaps familiar with the Gorton's Fisherman, mascot for the Gorton's line of seafood products. As you've likely heard, the original Gorton responsible for this brand had a similarly nautical brother, Morton, who branched off to sell sea salt. Eventually, this resulted in the Gorton's fisherman's brother, the Morton fisherman, becoming an equally iconic mascot. But frankly, we're tired of this old boys club. The raincoat becomes a yellow dress and the hat golden hair. We're bringing the female perspective and a more broad-minded, youth-oriented approach to the brand. Now here's a mascot that women can relate to. Notable feminist activist O.D. McKee, who founded the McKee Foods Corporation in 1928, wanted to name their line of dessert snacks after his strong and empowered granddaughter, Debbie. Of course, the world was so indefensibly sexist in those days that the board members naturally believed the public would never stand for a female appearing in any kind of branding. So OD instead came up with a plan to use the likeness of his favourite composer. Thusly, a portrait of Claude Debussy as a child became the little Debbie we know and love. The board and the public were much more amenable to this clever ruse than the truth, but we have finally restored the original progressive vision behind this mascot. Even aside from all the mega corporations using branding to vent their intense reverence for womenfolk on Twitter, I'm not the first person to think of womanizing logos. That's what that word means, right? I've drawn greatly from such inspirational organizations as CDA, an English appliance manufacturer who got some play a few IWDs ago for gender flopping a bunch of male mascots. And true to form for any corporation trying to convince everyone they really do care about social issues, it was an absolute disaster. Snap, Crackle and Pop just sort of look like they're trying on second-hand wigs. The Jolly Green Giant is jolly grotesque, and whatever abyss this shonky Tony the Tiger is staring into apparently stared right back. Then Ms. Muscle not only bears almost no resemblance whatsoever to the real deal, but also has the added bonus of being a woman whose only purpose is to clean. I think we progressed so far that we somehow came full circle. Kinda like that time big business opted to show solidarity with people of color by getting rid of all the mascots who weren't white. Life's kinda funny that way. And oh no, what on God's crusty pie did they do to Julius Pringles? This doesn't look like a woman. It looks like Augustus Gloop.
Oh, look how they massacred my boy.
I suspect that they were valiantly attempting to avoid cliched and outdated gender-coded imagery like lipstick and long hair. Problem is, that kinda means they valiantly avoided anything that could conceivably make it recognizable as female. If only it were International Androgynous Man-Child Day, then they'd be set. Chiquita Bananas are well known for their Latin dancer man mascot, which could be taken as a deeply unsettling example of cultural appropriation and offensive stereotyping, or possibly as deeply impressive and much needed mainstream representation for communities of color. I feel kind of underqualified to judge, to be honest, and incidentally, I'm also deathly afraid of what will happen if I choose wrong. Either way, the future is female, and this mascot is no exception. Alright, Borden is a particularly egregious one. Can you believe how many companies profit by dairy-based products, exploiting hard-working female cows everywhere, and then represent their brands with men? Not only is PETA not going to stand for this kind of misogynistic speciesism, but neither are we. So we've ditched their mascot and his unappealing dad bod. Now they have the female mascot they would have had all along if they weren't awful people. Then the laughing cow is even worse. This boorish oaf is the face of the brand, and yet they still have the unmitigated gall to use the word cow in the brand name. That should be absolutely unthinkable in this day and age, and we're only too happy to fix it. And don't even get me started on Skinny Cow. These people are easily the worst in the herd. Not only do they give us a bull instead of the brand's namesake bovine gender, but this beefed up dude bro just reeks of toxic masculinity. A swift redesign into a strong and empowered female cow is the least we can do. Another company that took a crack at this whole thing is Creative Equals, an English consultancy firm. And unlike the bungling incompetence of CDA, they actually did quite a good job of it. The Monopoly woman looks like she could end friendships just as competently as any man. The Green Giantess is a clear improvement, by which I mean this one's not a monstrosity. And hey, this Pringles lady actually looks like a lady. I like how they used part of the mustache as the ponytail. That's good continuity. I've been trying to do the same thing, like when I used Wendell's bow tie as the ribbons in the final logo's hair, or when I used Hello Kitty's bow tie as the ribbon in the final logo's hair. Alright, so maybe that's too much continuity. Of course, the Cholula man is also in dire need of a change-up for two important reasons. One is that, like all feminists, we believe diversity and inclusivity are of absolutely paramount importance. The other is, like all feminists, we hate Catholics. Did somebody say Utz? This little football player boy has been the face of Utz chips for years, and we're here to fix that. Now we're associating women with grease, carbs, and obesity for a change. If that's not a step in the right direction, I don't know what is. You know the Sun-Made Man. Not only do we intend to replace him with a powerful female voice, but I also want nothing to do with this highly problematic co-opted clothing. Just because you like to get zooted on ganja doesn't mean you get to wear one of those Rasta beanies, Mr. Privilege. And don't get me started on white people with dreads. Well, ladies, I hope you enjoyed whatever women-only event you were forced to attend today. As for the gentlemen in the audience, I have a joke. What are you doing for International Men's Day? Let's play a game. I'll draw someone famous, and the first 3 people to guess who it is in the comments get a shout out when I tell you the answer in the next episode. If any of you wise guys guessed Mo Howard last time, then you're not such a knucklehead after all. Aman88 turned up 87 early, landing first place. Drake Dragsaw carved out a place for himself in second. Then Mawa Underwand said the magic words, taking third. Well done everyone, thanks for playing. The difference between this week's subject and Desperate Housewives is one features a really broad nose, while the other features real nosy broads. Their lips are tighter than Anderson Cooper on New Year's Eve, and they also sport a prominent beard, the consistency of which is somewhat reminiscent of a used lint roller. Alternatively, they also slightly resemble a lump of food whose untimely descent from fork to carpet has placed enormous strain on the 5-second rule. Now who could this be? If you know who that was, let us know in the comments. And remember, if you don't like and subscribe, that makes you a misogynist. This has been the Harry Gold Show. So until next time, stay safe, and God bless.